she's got a cane and she's already threatened to use it. So yeah, be careful.
I'm not proud. There we go.
Thank you.
Welcome.
You guys are forcing me to be right on camera here.
Oh, I can eat that. There you go. You won't eat the
Where was it? Did you steal it off? No, no. One of the times you got up, hey, Melanie.
Hello, how are you? Hello, good. How are you?
Good. You're almost.
Oh, there's two. You want his left arm or right arm? Anybody with a beard?
You have enough room, John?
Yeah, I was just talking to her outside. That's why I was staying down there talking. Yeah, they're fine now. Yeah, she had a great time. What has been going on?
It was nice. It was a very good vacation. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it actually was my 24th year. The same reason.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So do you get the norm treatment?
I do. I do. I swear to God.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I took 8 people down with me this year, and 3 other couples.
You forgot one other couple.
I offered it to her, but she said you were going to be in Chicago. And, sir, there's one next to us right there. Right here, this row. Oh, okay. Yep.
You're fine. I can't move my... There you go.
I know, they don't get very much room, do they?
Open sesame.
Jennifer, I didn't have time to go to the orchard. I was on vacation. It will be. Yeah. You're going to try a new one.
Pretty sure that.
How are you?
Dark.
Yeah, some of us have.
No, you don't. Tracy, you want my chair? I can stand.
I can bring mine.
No big deal. I got 2 good legs. Oh, is there?
Oh, there's one right here.
Jump. Oh, I'm here? Okay, I'll take this one.
Hey, Bruce.
There's one right there here, too.
Okay, that one's closer. I'll go here.
There's one in this row.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Right in the center.
Excuse me, pardon me. Easy access.
The one in that seat has to stand this way.
Since when?
Ma'am. Ma'am, you want my chair?
No.
Are you sure?
No, yes, I'm sure. I'm just looking around.
Okay.
Are there any chairs down your line? No.
No, why don't you just take mine? I'm
No,
good.
no, 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 no.
Okay.
She did.
Nobody wants to rezone anything in their house. Nobody wants to do something.
I know, pretty kind of located.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to be extra How are you? You want to sit here? Take it. No, I want to sit here. Your husband is the boss on right? Are you sure?
Yeah, like I said, I sit all day long. Are you sure? Yeah, absolutely.
Do you mind if I sit down here?
That's what you're gonna get.
Yeah, I'll make you go. Sit there. Hey, you take her in.
No, he's not taking over.
There's something wrong with that chair. He's been trying to get away from
It might be a little,
I wasn't there.
well, I was just.
Roll on over. Roll on back.
Roll on back.
Now look, you're Who just said that? Who made that?
Moving up in the world, wasn't he? Such a good
Now I can't yell John Cena.
I am.
I know, right? As big as I get.
It's like, now you'll look at it. Hey, look at our sign. But it says, so it's like the building on the corner. Hey, lady, we're taking on around the corner.
She's pretty funny. Have you ever listened to her?
And the back and
Sit in this chair. And now for the first time ever, you're taller than her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Welcome to the Maumee City Council meeting. It's November 18th at 6:15 p.m. I'll call the order, please.
Lightfoot.
Yes.
Noonan.
Yes.
Pufferberger. Yes. Barrow.
Yes.
Biscuit.
Yes.
Harris.
yes.
Kirk.
Yes. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First order of business is Committee of the Whole. I'll turn it over to President Barrow.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. For a good introduction.
I can take it from here if I'm on the introduction, if you don't mind. We have some new firefighters and some others that may need recognition or that are going to get recognized tonight. So, Chief Lobachevsky, if you wouldn't mind coming in, please. Again, we're in the middle of a hire, trying to get our fire division up to staff with full-time and part-time, and this is kind of an ongoing thing monthly here, so it's a good thing.
It is a good thing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Council, Administration. Again, I'm Brandon Lobachevsky, Fire Chief, and I'm here to welcome, we have 3 new full-time firefighter paramedics starting today. And we also have 5 part-time firefighter EMTs that are starting today. A couple couldn't be with us today, but so I'm going to introduce the full-time people first, and also give them their badges tonight. They have some family here, but again, this is I call it maybe phase 2 of our hiring process. We still have a couple more positions to fill, but we've made a lot of progress. Our team is doing great. Chiefs have been working very hard with our officers and all the firefighters and paramedics and crews together. So we're very thankful for that. So first, I'd like to introduce Mark Salas. And Mark actually started today, so he's on duty. So hopefully that's good. Mark, I'll let you introduce who's here with you today. But Mark is resides in Maumee, so.
Dad's here, and my sister Melissa, and Mia, her daughter.
Oh, nice.
Welcome.
All right. Welcome to the Maumee Fire Department.
Thank you so much.
Very welcome. Next is Matt Duplaga. Matt, you want to come on in? And Matt will start Wednesday as first shift. Matt comes us from the Cuyahoga County area. So Matt, welcome. Yes. So, you had to find out here.
Long week. All right. Mom and Dad and my grandmother are here today. Nice to meet you. Like one of the other.
Mark, please, too, if you wanted to get badged too. If you'd like to. all do it together. And while I'm doing that, I would introduce Ryan Schaefer, who is unable to make it tonight. He started B shift working tomorrow. Unfortunately, he couldn't have.
Is he full-time, Chief?
He is full-time, Ryan, so there's 3 full-time. Mike? Yeah, he's got his mark too. Oh, there you go, yeah. That's my bird. Yeah.
Sideways so she could get a picture.
First fireman's dance.
And next up, our part-time firefighters, they're gonna start this week as well. First of all, Nick Farina, if you wanna come up. And
Welcome, Nick.
welcome, Nick, and you reside down in Findlay, yes, I was gonna say, Findlay. So he resides in Findlay and comes to us with experience from a lot of different departments. So we appreciate Nick being able to be part-time with us. And who do you have here tonight? My girlfriend, Amanda. Okay, she'd like to. No. Yeah, we can. I'll take it. Yeah, I'll get you. Here you go. All right, say be done. There you go. I'll show you. All right. Next up is Tyler Horns. Tyler comes to us from White House.
Yep.
He's a part-time firefighter there. So, welcome, Tyler. You have family?
I have my mom Diana, little brother Connor, and Matthew.
All right.
All
All right. That'll be good. All right. Your mom have been bad on you? Absolutely. Is she, somebody got a phone or? Oh, I'm thinking of.
Oh, you got to turn sideways.
Yeah, you got that. There you go. All right. And last is Allison Robinson, and Allie, as we call her. And Allie is a graduate of Maumee High School. This is Beth's here. So, welcome. She got her certification in PENA, and she was able to ride with us and get some experience with a high school student during that time. So we're grateful that she was able to take that next step in her career. Shiley? Shiley is going to be helping her tonight with the cleaning. And I think the bandage is, there it goes. All right. All right. So we're still, unfortunately, Seth Longenbach, who is a full-time Finley firefighter, he is now part-time with us as well. He wasn't able to make it, and then Drew Stockwell, and Drew was on the Rossburg Fire Department part-time. So we're very grateful to have these men and women help serve our community, and I'm thankful for the the community support for all you've done. And last but not least, I do want to recognize, I don't know if Captain Casina's here. Was he able to make it? He said he was going to try to, but if he's not out there. With our transition, we wanted to recognize Ray Casina in his 22 years of service. He retired as a paid-on-call volunteer firefighter. He was 8 years in the Marines, and he became a captain a number of years ago with the fire department, but he was instrumental in building our fire division up with a lot of stuff, especially with our apparatus. So with the transition, he obviously unfortunately was not able to remain as a firefighter, but he still works full-time with the city in the water division. So Ray was a big help, and then Melissa Eckler, I think she was on a call when I came in, so she's a full-time police officer. But we wanted to recognize Mel too. She is no longer on the department either as a part-time paid-on-call firefighter, but she served 17 years on the fire department. So as we transition from our paid-on-call part-time model to full-time, we just want to make sure we recognize all those who were interested in this. Mayor, do you have anything to say?
Yes, gentlemen and ladies, I just want to welcome you to the fire division. Being from the emergency services, I've served here for many years. It's a passion of mine. I know how important it is when you have a passion for emergency services. When you serve, your family serves too, and I understand that. And I'm just so grateful that you're willing to do the job that you do. And we are committed to making sure that you have the equipment and the training to do that job. And I know for a fact that the leaders that are in place in the fire division are committed to that as well. So welcome, and have a great career here in Maumee.
Other than that, we'll get going.
And I would, if any of the families of the new recruits would like to leave, I mean, this is just business after this, so you're welcome to do that.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am. I'm just going to stay right here.
It is pretty comfortable, I thought.
And then now it's warm and dry.
Oh, good. Thanks, John.
President Farrell?
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. The next on our
Thank you,
agenda
Chief.
is the presentation of our updated sewer proposal. This is going to be the second presentation. Last Thursday, our Finance and Economical Development Committee had a meeting with this presentation forward. Chairman Puffenberger, Councilman Harris, and myself were on that committee. We had a full presentation. The public was there, and there were a lot of questions, probably for a good hour. I would say that covered a lot of what ifs and how does this impact me myself, as some of the people in the audience were asking. So before council tonight, there'll be 3 recommendations out of the sewer regulations, and along the way, the rehabilitation that needs to be done. So we looked at a viable path to along the problem. It's been out there a long time, so we think we're going to get there. Hopefully we do. Thank you. And with that, Mr. Rich, if you would please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council President. As you know, some of the people who were at the meeting, sorry for not standing up, the sheet is not in the way. We have been working back and forth in evolving this project. About a week and a half ago, we had a meeting with the EPA and their finance division, and they made us aware that the interest rate that we're receiving for the money that we were asking for and nominating for, the interest rate had dropped. We were not aware that the interest rate would drop and that we'd be able to achieve that lower interest rate, and we believe that's exactly where the interest rates are going. The last program that we had public laterals, public mains, and manholes as the first component of this project, and then the second component was doing work that was outside the area of the SSO compliance rate. So that is namely an area that is bounded on the east by Cass Road and also on the south by Mount Clover Road. Those areas used to be number 2 priority, because it does, while it does not affect the SSO discharge numbers, it does affect the amount of money that our ratepayers pay to the county in terms of that usage. The third one was private laterals. Private laterals, that is also being changed in the program you'll see today, and also work inside the home. What this program did is when interest rates went down, the ability between those interest rates going from 2.86% to 2.43%, and hopefully it'll go down even before we borrow the money in January or February, it made about the best we can tell is about a $6 to $8 million difference over 30 years. That crunches out of the $20 million number that we would need to fix people's sump pumps and connections inside their homes. One of the big caveat here is that we are still waiting for a court decision to whether or not we can spend public money inside of a home. Tonight, we're proposing, and the actual planning, or the finance committee voted to recommend that council pass an ordinance to declare a nuisance of private laterals outside the home. Felt more comfortable with that than inside the home. We're still waiting for special dispensation from the courts to be able to do things inside the home. With that, I'll go through the thing. This is obviously a group that it's an advisory group with CMAC as part of that. There's 5 or 6 CMAC members that sit on this committee. This program, there are a couple of CMAC members that were out of town during the latest changes, but we had to propose this because we have to move forward with our FCA, which is the financial analysis with the EPA, and also with the program, because we got to ramp up. Because as you know, they're setting up meetings that'll launch in December for people who want to know how this individually affects them. Myself, as well as 1 council member and 2 of our staff will meet. There's probably going to be between 300 and 350 slots, Saturday, Sunday, evenings, during the day, to sign up for an hour, come in and talk with us about your specific instance, so you don't have to do that in every other meeting. Obviously, our data indicates this is a substantial problem. When we consulted with Columbus, we realized that they were proposing that inside the home was a lot larger amount than they actually noticed was happening after they tested, after they had done things inside the home. What I'm going to propose here tonight is 3 of the 4 remedies are about even in terms of what they produce in terms of I&I in our system, in the sanitary system. You'll notice that this takes into account residential properties or commercial structures less than 15,000 square feet in the historic district. We wanted to make sure that we had commercial structures that needed these repairs included as well, since they pay toward the rate. There are a number of apartment complexes and commercial structures that aren't going to have to do this work because they have SDR 35 pipe and probably are not presently leaking. The first one, the prioritization has changed. Obviously, the first one is the $61.2 million that we currently nominated for. We're hoping to bid that work in 13 separate projects that starts in February of 25 as the bid advertising. Remember, we have to advertise the bid and get bids in before we can actually close on any loans that we're doing with the EPA and the Water Pollution Control Revolving Loan Fund program. These will be publicly paid out of the current rate structure that's already in place. There are no fees for this. The second one we put in here is private sanitary laterals. That's an additional $20 million. The nomination will be in December. We're going to be nominating here this next month for the additional $20 million for the private sanitary laterals. We did not nominate for that previously, and I'll go into why we think that has to happen in December. The bid advertising for these nuisance sanitary sewer laterals. And remember that the ordinance this evening, which is the first reading of an ordinance, is really for the purpose of declaring a nuisance on any substandard lateral. It would be difficult to go through and without inspections and determine which homes had substandard laterals, so you declare the ones that are substandard a nuisance so you can be able to fix these and use public money on private property. They're also publicly paid. You'll notice at the bottom, which is hard for me to see right here from this distance, that we have, for those who have, it's 200 feet for private laterals,
The 200 feet part of that out for those earning less than 250% AMI.
Yes, sorry, and then it's 100 feet. The idea is that if you're making less, 250% AMI is about a $200,000 a year adjusted gross income. That means that deductions and additions on the 1040 will be counted, which means that if you have a $230,000 income and you have standard deductions, it takes you below the 198 or 200,000, you qualify from 200 feet of private lateral. We don't know, except for if you're on the river and have a very large front yard, whether or not you would have more than even 80 feet of private lateral. We also, most streets have 80 feet of public and private lateral combined. The next one is private footer downspout sump pump corrections. That's 20 million. That got pushed up from the bottom because the grant loan availability will be in 25, depending on court consent and legal analysis. And they will be retroactive to July 17th of 24. So to the extent that anybody has actually done work in their home, these will be, except for loans, will be remediated and paid just as if they go through the process, if they'd gone through it after this date. They're also publicly paid. The last presentation had a $12 fee based on income. With the interest rates the way they're going, pushing this one up with no fee being charged extra per month is appropriate. So there will be no extra fee per month that will be added to any bill for the purposes of paying for the grants that will happen inside people's homes. The public sanitary sewer main that you see at the bottom, this is something that has to start in 2030. It is our intention before we get to it, is we've submitted an alternate plan to the EPA that reduces 75% inflow and infiltration over this period so that we don't have to build expensive tanks. The EPA asked us to do alternatives as part of the first process of our SSES plan, and during that process they asked us to determine a alternative conveyance system. What that means is that they wanted us to price out what it would take to actually get a pipe almost 78 inches in diameter from the turnpike all the way to the plant at Fallen Timbers at a total cost of almost $300 million. With that alternative system would be 3 new additional pump stations, at least 5 or 6 times their current size, would add another $90 million. And if you could convey all the things that you do in 5 days a year, this is really about 5 to 10 days a year that we overflow. That you have these significant events. You would be at a 50-year control event because the EPA is not going to allow us control for a 10-year event. That's a minor rainfall compared to a 50-year event. They've told us very clearly we're not going to be able to discharge anymore. That means that even at a 50-year event, which they may not approve, at a 50-year event, 5 or 6 times a year, we would pump them 115 million gallons of flow 5 or 6 times a year to a plant that with all the communities that go into it only have a 50 million gallon a day, 54 million gallon a day capacity. So our issue here is that you'd have to increase the size of the county's plant by 88 million gallons to take 5 days a year. The cost of that increase to us would be between $700 and $1 billion, $1.2 billion. Obviously, that is not a very good alternative at all. There's no way we could afford to do that. So we will rule that out and ask the EPA to rule that out as well. They did come back, and many of you know, and I've said this before, in our second alternative with a 75% reduction in inflow and infiltration, they answered back by, they didn't say they believed, but they were skeptical of whether our citizens would stand up and do the work necessary inside their homes to disconnect. So achieving that 75% reduction in I&I, which is why we have these grant programs up here, and you'll see in the next slide what that means in terms of just about everybody in town getting a 100% grant to be able to do that work. And we also had some disincentives built in, one of them recommended by CMAQ to make sure that people felt the need to do this early rather than later. The 75% reduction I&I program, they came back with us, the EPA came back with a statement that they wanted us to show good faith by building the storage that's in the river flats behind Harrison Street now instead of 7 years from now. We don't believe that's a good idea because we believe the I&I reduction will be achieved, and then we will have built a very, very, very large tank, bigger than what we had originally submitted, and that will be a useless storage facility in 6 or 7 years. And we would have paid over $20 million to build that, not 6 to 8 like was the original plan, because if they say, there also in that was that we would eliminate 4 of our SSO outlets. To do that, the tank would have to be much larger. Instead of a pipe, it would have to actually be a tank behind people's homes on Harrison Street. About the size of a football field, 16 feet deep, concrete post and beam construction. Obviously, most of these are 100% grant. We're trying to achieve public purpose for the ability to spend money inside of homes. You'll notice that you go all the way down to 250% AMI or below. Right now, it's 198. When they come out with the stats this coming calendar year, I'm sure the PUD will publish that over $200,000. So that will be 100% grant inside your home. So essentially, the whole system is tightened up by lining all the way to the home, and then the improvements that are done inside the home at the cost that you've already paid, or that you will be paying as part of your rates, current rate structure. What happens is once you get above 250, or let's say you make $300,000 or $400,000 a year, that is the only one that doesn't have 100% grant to start off with. In all good conscience, I could not put 100% grant out for people who make that kind of money, because it seemed to me that you could have a family that's making $78,000 a year paying for somebody who makes $250 a year or $300 a year for all of their work inside their home. But it is a substantial grant. 80% is a substantial grant. There would be a zero interest loan for the rest of it. But you'll notice in the chart, and obviously the beam does not work. Oh, jeez. It's not the beam. Anyway, you'll notice that as you go down on the lower income levels, as an incentive to sign up early, you'll notice that it starts turning to loan if you wait to do this. Each one of those goes down to the point where when you get to the higher income levels, you could actually have a 40, 60 grant. There's a typo there because it leaves over 10%. You'll be able to still do it if you do it in a later year. However, we have specific qualifying factors. We're getting more and delineating what this protocol will actually be. Amortization schedules are dependent on the cost of repair and the amount of a loan. Let's say you did it 3 years from now and the amount of your loan was $1,800. You're probably not going to get 15 years to pay $1,800 back. That'll be determined by a committee that does that on a case-by-case basis with that homeowner, so that money, that amount of conversation is not held publicly. Loans, if any, will be secured through lien placement. Although the city will be a second or third position behind mortgages, there's a lien to make sure that the loan is paid, that it happens anytime money is borrowed. A free city sewer inspection will be required to determine the extent of the repairs needed. You'll need 2 or more quotes so that we can make sure that contractors are being honest about the amount they're charging our residents. And that'll be approved by the city service department. The city must pay the property owner either through proof of contractor payment or through a contractor signed full conditional waiver of lien. This is meant to protect the property owner. When somebody gives a full conditional waiver of lien, we're not going to make the homeowner pay that bill unless, if they give us a full conditional waiver from the contractor, we'll write a check to the homeowner, and then they'll pay their contractor. They'll have to get a full conditional waiver of lien. Means when the contractor receives the money, the waiver takes effect. So that you're not on the hook for something you paid through the city, and then somehow you're getting stuck for a lien file, a mechanics lien by a contractor. Grants, if applicable, work already completed will be retroactive, as I said. There were also, one of the big questions that we're asking all the roundtables, if you were able to do this kind of a grant program, a loan program, what would happen if there was such a large outpouring of people who wanted to sign up, and we could do 600 or 700 a year, and you were the 900th person in line or the 925th in line. The idea is that if you're there in 25 and you sign up, you'll simply sign an agreement to the year you're going to do it. You're going to fill up each year. So 25 will fill up first, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and then you'll be able to still get the same deal you would have gotten in 2025. So there'll be no interest rate increase. There will be no reduction to a loan amount if you sign up and sign an agreement, commit to doing it. Now, if somebody reneges on doing it for some reason, I can't imagine why somebody would, because it's 100% paid. They would jump to the year in which that didn't happen, and then they would pay that interest rate and that loan amount during that period of time. And you'll notice at the bottom where it says for loans made in 25, there is 0%. That would only apply to people in the highest income brackets. But as you know, when you go to 26, some of it becomes loans for below that income level as a disincentive to wait. We understand there's no way the city is going to be able to do 900 to 1,000 inspections in a year. We just don't have that much staff or that much equipment. But we want to make sure that people sign up so they're committed to doing it, so that we can show the EPA that we can pull this off. That is we're still working with the EPA on a financial analysis. We hope that financial analysis shows that by doing it quickly, it'll show that a bit more financial stress in terms of the city's ability to pay, which hopefully gets us a reduction in the interest rate. Interest rate reduction to a one percentage point would likely pay for the whole $20 million we need inside of homes. But that being as it may, the $20 million that we allocated for the fourth, if I go back up there, if you'll see this one right here on the bottom where it talks about those areas west of Key, it's actually west of Key and north of St. Luke's. Those areas, that money will be shifted to 2030 with the intention that we will be done or close to being done with internal property corrections before that time. So that money will also be put toward that. All we're really waiting for now is for our FCA, or financial analysis, to be submitted to the EPA and to negotiate what looks like to be a consent decree with the courts, federal or otherwise, to allow us to do this. This is similar to what Elyria did. If you look at Elyria's consent order, the judge allowed them to continue their loan program in private properties inside houses, and that's how they did this, by having a court order to do it. That's what we intend to do. We've had preliminary discussions about this. It looks like it is something that's possible, very possible. So that's what we're working to that end. Essentially, the program in front of you is a program, council knows about this, and most of you out here have heard about this, is the purpose of essentially spending about $100 million to fix a problem that the alternatives could be much, much larger. I've talked about one alternative tonight just on rough numbers. Some of the other alternatives they want us to do. The one we submitted that was a 20-year program that they would likely give us 15 years for, and it was a 25% reduction in I&I, and it built 2 large tanks. It controlled for a 10-year event, which they're not going to allow us to do. We cannot control for a 10-year event. We have to eliminate SSO discharges. And remember, our SSO discharges are up where those pumps are. They're not at the river. That's where it shows itself, but we're actually at Birch Street Pump Station, some areas that everybody who's seen those pumps out, you'll know that that's where we are pumping sanitary flow with the storm sewers that ends up into the river. That's what we have to eliminate. We have to eliminate that use. And part of the program that we have here actually does a different line down 7th Street connecting to Key, a much smaller conveyance system to make sure that we eliminate the Birch Street pump station for operation. Anybody see the pump station that's in Birch Street at 7th? Under this scenario, hopefully within 7 years, that pump station will be eliminated. That is the largest contributor to our SSO in the river is the Birch Street pump station, because at full run, it has the ability to pump 10,000 gallons of sewage a minute. Wow. So, I mean, that's a full above ground swimming pool, 24 feet in diameter of sewage in a minute. So that's a lot. And like I said, you've heard the number, we talked about 115 million gallons if we were to take the conveyance option, which means even if you could convey it to a plant you haven't built yet, and a plant that's rated at 54, not 115 million gallons a day, that would just be our flow. The problem you have is that we would not be able to achieve the alternatives. It's a little odd, I believe, for the EPA. They've told me they don't have a community that's ever said, yeah, we'll fix it. They're usually trying to complain and figure out how to not fix it and drag it on as far as they can. I think in the long term, rate-wise, that's a bad idea for the Maumee community, because I think it just costs more and more money over time, and you're actually treating the flow that you're capturing to send to them over time. That is not a rate stabilizer, that is a rate increaser. So with that, Mr. Mayor,
I would like to just have you clarify one thing. Obviously, the three things you're talking about, it's imperative to know that all three pieces of that puzzle have to happen in order to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. And we've also been in touch with Columbus, which has kind of gone through this, so it's important to talk to other communities that have kind of experienced some of this. So with that, what was the results of what Columbus said, where the source of their problem was, and what was the highest percentage of fix that worked?
Yeah, they believe their private laterals were actually bigger than inside the homes. But remember, they had estimated private laterals to be very low. They estimated inside the homes because they overestimated the amount of downspouts that they would have to remove. Those were actually, so it evened out. Within 5 or 10 points of each other, doing mains, manholes, and laterals, and inside the home were about evenly dispersed within 5 or 10% of each other. In order, I can assure you that I've spoken, so I did not speak out of turn. I've talked with our staff today, all of them to deal with this. I've talked with Stantec today, and I asked them, can this be done by doing one or two of these options? And they told me, absolutely not. You will not achieve 75% reduction in I&I in our system and offset building these tanks unless you try to do all three of these first three things in this priority list simultaneously or very close to simultaneously. So, that's correct.
Yes, thank you. That was my question, President Barrow.
Sure.
Yield to you, go ahead.
Thank you. Hope everybody got a good education here. It's all good news so far. Continuing a committee of the whole, do we have any questions? Are we still do committee of the whole? We do.
Maybe council might have questions about this?
Sure. Council, with this topic. Any questions? No. I just had a comment or two. I'm going to point out that our water rate schedule will cover these that we had scheduled some time ago. Foreseeing we have to do a large undertaking rather. The nice thing is that we found some avenues to get that taken care of much quicker because we don't have a lot of time to do that. Thank you. I'm done.
I do believe that we're looking at a program calendar here to help the citizens kind of work through some of their questions with one-on-one time with our administration. Where are we with that?
I didn't spend a lot of time on that. Nancy and Casey are setting that up now.
Yes.
Where you'll be able to get on the website and set a meeting even 2 months in advance. For a Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, we have a set schedule that myself, there'll be one council member, probably different every time, and probably specifically 2 of the council members that were on the advisory group with us will be part of that thing. Sometimes it'll be Jennifer Harkey, our finance director, sometimes Alan, and sometimes the mayor and some other people. So it won't be more than 3 or 4 people from the city side to answer any questions somebody might have. It gives people the opportunity to sign up and be discreet about issues they have in their home and what that takes. We would encourage people before that happens, as soon as they could, to schedule inspections. Fortunately, we have one of our trucks down right now waiting for a part. We ordered another one. As you know, we spent some money last meeting to order the new camera truck. And we're getting another push camera, which is what we really do inside the home inspection. So to the extent that you haven't scheduled, you can contact water billing. Jennifer, do you have the number they could call for?
I can look it up, but it's the email is conveyance@maumee.org, and that's available on our website too.
I think one of the questions that was at the committee meeting the other day was, if I get a contractor to work on my house, and they're gonna charge me again to inspect the system, why do I have to pay that if the city's already inspected my property? And I, go ahead with the answer to that.
You wouldn't, actually, you would not have a contractor then come in and pay them to inspect the system, because we wouldn't accept a contractor's inspection anyway, because we're spending public money. We have to verify through staff that the problem exists, and it's kind of like, it's nothing against contractors. There are some really good contractors out there. We want to make sure that what you're being told is something that uses the least amount of dollars and still gives the best service you can achieve. There's been a couple of cases, and there's probably one or two people in this room that I've spoken with where a contractor gave a price and it was far more than was necessary in the end. So we want to make sure that we verify the numbers you're getting from contractors, and also make sure that we're verifying what actually has to be done in the home. Sometimes it's not as much as you think. So we want to make sure that we're not spending more money than we have.
And those videos that the city has of the system obviously are available to a contractor to see that, and, you know, and decide what's the best course of action for the fix.
Yeah, and part of the inspection, you'll have to sign a form that allows us, the inspectors, to be there. We don't have the ability to even put a scope up the lateral to see what shape the lateral's in without your permission. So the extent that the 100% grant comes with the permission to do that, there may be times, I'll make very clear, we are looking for even a break in a lateral. If you have a break that's 15 feet outside your home and the pipe is offset, we can't line through that. Contractor can't line. So we will have to dig down in your yard and repair it first, do a small repair before they can line through the sewer to the house. So just know that there will be that stuff, and we will restore, and we're coming up with those protocols and how that happens now.
Thank you for allowing me to questions.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Other
Do you want to take some?
The questions really were for the committee meeting we had on Thursday. Good, I mean, that was open, that was wide open for anybody to ask.
Okay, thank you. Council, if you have any questions or concerns on the agenda before you? Haven't seen none. This concludes committee of the whole. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we move to citizen comments. There's a 3-minute limit per person, 2-minute limit if more than 2 people have addressed the same subject.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I just want to add, if the people want to say after the meeting, you have any questions, we can answer those then. Thank you.
Okay. Valerie Giovanici lives on Midfield. Valerie, if you would, make sure the microphone's close to you.
Valerie Debenucci, Midfield Drive. I have 2 issues that I'd like to request some attention to. One, first of all, I've been recently walking at Rock Park with my dog, and they took all the trash cans after the softball season and whatever, and put them at the corner of the lot. So now if you walk through that park, there is no place to discard your dog waste. And not only that, but the dog bags aren't being replenished either. So I know that I've spoke to Nancy, and they did put 2 cans, but all the way at the front of the park. So if you try to walk the path, there's no place to discard the waste. I'd like to see a few more cans distributed throughout the path. Secondly, I have an issue. A year ago, I had asked about the stop signs at Gibbs, Wayne, and Dudley, and Gibbs. And at the time you were president, you had said that yes, that's being looked into, and of course that's something we addressed. It was a question that had been presented to you guys before. And so now I'm sitting here looking at how that was all, those intersections were all tore up, and why weren't the stop signs put in at the time? So now taxpayers gonna have to pay somebody to go back over there and tear it up again and then put the stop signs in?
I believe the stop signs are part of the project.
Okay, so, but that means that was already tore up once, and they.
Well, the stop signs is just a matter of punching it in the ground and putting a sign on it.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I believe that's coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that was all I had.
Thank you.
Hopefully it's in the trash can.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. In fact, I kind of jumped you a little bit early this week because we've already had that conversation because I live over that way and I noticed the same thing you were noticing. Nan and John? Nan and John? Yeah, or just John? Okay, yes. Welcome.
Thank you. Nan and John Halsey, and we live at 616 West Wayne Street. And John and I are here to thank Mayor McDonald and the city administrator Patrick Birch and our city council members for all of the hard work in trying to create positive change in Maumee. Although we realize that the rental ordinance was repealed in our recent election, and we respect that, we did not receive the ordinance to be a means of sticking it to landlords both financially and time-wise. When we learned of the ordinance regarding non-owner occupied rental property, we concluded that the ordinance was a way to ensure that renters had a safe and well-maintained living environment. We also believe that the rental ordinance was a means of ensuring that the maintenance of a rental property would not be neglected, as this would affect surrounding property values. Many, if not most, landlords in Maumee likely maintain a very high standard for their properties. The ordinance was not created as a punishment directed at them. It would have provided uniform standards for all rental properties so that unsafe and or unkept properties can be addressed. There are numerous situations in which regulations exist for the safety of those involved. Daycare centers are regulated and have to meet certain standards for the welfare of the children in their care. Nursing homes and hospitals are regulated for similar reasons. Those involved have a clear understanding of the standards expected of them, and periodic inspections, while at times annoying, are accepted as necessary. So why is it different to not ensure that when people live in a building owned by someone else, that it is safe and well maintained? We were pleased to learn that the citizens became angry with the initial, that when the citizens became angry with the initial proposal for addressing EPA's guidelines regarding our sewer systems, public meetings were held with city officials to arrive at a more acceptable resolution. It was an indication of the positive consequences which can result from open communication between groups. John and I are grateful to our city officials for all the positive changes in the Maumee environment. We've noticed that traffic appears to flow more quickly and smoothly through town now that construction has included and light signals have been synchronized. The trees added to the Maumee landscape will add beauty and a feeling of community. The improvements made at White Park and the creation of the walking path there are appreciated and enable people to enjoy the respite that can be found along the river. The updating of the lighting, roads, signage, and exterior appearance of uptown businesses have all contributed to our pride in our town. For all of these things, we want to extend our gratitude to all of you. John and I believe in honesty, compassion, and respect. The current effort being made to obtain signatures from Maumee citizens in an attempt to
Can you just conclude your thought? Can you conclude your thought?
just the fact that they're trying to have you all be unseated with the ultimate goal of getting new people in, with the ultimate goal of getting rid of our city administrator. We just find that very offensive, and those are not our values, and those are not the values that we want to show to our children and Maumee.
Thank you. Amy Pocket.
Try to keep this fast. It's a good time.
Can you move the mic just up there? Thank you.
I'm just going to address the elephant in the room. As most of you know, I'm Amy Pockman, and I am part of the committee, part of the 5 that is on the committee for the recall process. It is not personal. I don't know any of you personally, and I'm sure that none of you are inherently evil, just like I'm not inherently evil. I disagree with you professionally. There's a huge difference. I have been called, I've been accused of spreading misinformation, mistruths, fear-mongering, being toxic, threatening and intimidating, uninformed, greedy, selfish, bully, predatory, and extortionist, all either in print or in front of a microphone. I never wanted to get involved in politics, and this is the last thing I wanted to do. Never envisioned myself be involved in a recall effort. I really didn't. I just want permission to be sick. I want to go home to my husband, I want to go to work and come home and be sick like I should be. Not fighting for children and elderly and those who can't afford all of this. As for me spreading misinformation, I emailed all of you on August 19th, 2024, about the misinformation claim that Dave Burrows made at the council meeting. In that email, I asked for specifics on what exactly the misinformation was that was being spread and who spread it. I never received an email back. I confronted you at the next meeting. It came to me after that meeting and asked me to resend the email. I was like, finally. I did. I resent that email specifically at 10:43 p.m. that night. The only response I ever received from him was on 9/17, and it just said, thank you for resending it. It never answered my questions. Where are the footnotes? That's where I'm wondering. I have stood before you and asked for clarification of things that I didn't understand. Why are you doing what you're doing? I have begged you to start thinking of citizens, what is best for them. I have begged for you to communicate with us, to reconsider how you were spending, how and where you were spending money, and to not spring things on us at last minute and pass things the same night that you do. All we want is a voice. We elected the council to be our voice, but you're not involving us in anything. Never did I say you needed our permission. Never did I say that. We have a right to have a voice. There have been a lot of talks that have been bullying and threatening behaviors towards children of council members. I find it hard to believe that anybody would ever condone bully or threatening behaviors. I would really love specifics. I have spent my life protecting children.
Just conclude your thoughts. You're welcome to conclude.
I have spent my life protecting children. And those are serious accusations. I hope they were at least reported to the police or the schools.
Thank you.
Because children should never be involved.
Thank you. Zach Rader. Zach. Welcome, Zach.
Zach Rader, 1333 Birch, Maumee. Phil, I'm sorry to put you on the spot like this, but hearing about the possible recall of all members in council and our mayor seems you may be the only council member we have left if this recall goes through. I know you can't answer during citizen comment, but it would be helpful if you could shine light on a few questions. Can you answer why you're the only member not being? Can you answer why I shouldn't be fearful of what would happen to the city of Maumee if we lost 6 council members and our mayor in the middle of multiple projects happening throughout the city? Do you support the recall? Is that why you're not giving any type of comment on the matter? If this group is doing all this work, why aren't they just trying to remove all 8? Why does what does keeping one person? I was at a Maumee citizen organized meeting this past Saturday. After speaking with multiple concerned citizens, this recall could cause a painful ripple effect for the city of Maumee in ways I really don't think those asking for the recall fully understand. It seems to me that since you're the only member not being recalled, your voice could help in reverse this idea of a recall and speak to this group about the real harm.
Thank you. Dave Ross.
That's on YouTube too.
Welcome, Dave.
Dave Ross, I live on Twin Drive. I just have a couple questions, actually. First, if we've had our sewer inspected already this year, do we still have to sign up for this over the next few years?
If you had your sewer inspected and there's results on that?
Yes. Would we still have to have it redone during this next 5 years?
If you have an inspection already with the results of it, this will cover anything that's retroactive back to June.
From the city?
From the city.
Okay. My next question is, there's been a lot of talk recently about the lost income tax revenue from the hospital and the Andersons. And part of that is then meaning that we will possibly lose our trash service. So if that's the case, I don't understand why are we giving a 15-year tax abatement to an out-of-town landlord who's going to build luxury apartments? And please, I'd like an answer besides just that's what other communities are doing. Thanks.
Thank you. I would like to offer you somewhat of an answer, if that's acceptable to you. Typically, these type of investments, when they come into a city, they will not come unless there's some sort of an incentive for them to do that. And the reason why they do that is because of the rents that they have to charge in order to make their money back. So if they don't have some sort of a break in the cost of what it takes to get it done, then the rents are too high and the whole project is not successful. But what the city does reap is all the income tax of the people that live there. So the city will make revenue from a project like that, especially if there's 400 or 500 residents there, and there's income tax that can be drawn from there. Now, it's not Maumee Schools. So Maumee Schools is not going to suffer any kind of income from that. That is actually Anthony Wayne and Springfield Schools. So the school systems that directly affect our community is no. That's a moot point. If there's anything else, Mr. Burns, that you can offer that can kind of explain that whole process, it's very common in most communities to attract businesses that way.
It is a lot of experience in attracting businesses, both residential and commercial. And one of the issues here is that the property has sit vacant for over 40 years. It's been mowed. There's been no tax revenue to speak of in that land. We have no, until we changed the ordinances back about 3 years ago, we changed the ordinances to allow mixed use, with what they call form-based use by right, instead of Euclidean zoning. Euclidean zoning is a zoning where you separate uses. That's an old planning thought, and it was killing Arrowhead Park. Arrowhead Park at one time used to have 20,000 jobs. It now has about 10,000 jobs inside Arrowhead Park. And if anybody's walking through the park, Ebsey Park, and we were working out there with volunteers this year, you'll see that some of those buildings are completely vacant. The investment in terms of giving an abatement on property tax, not an income tax, on property tax, was to incentivize filling these buildings for other uses. A lot of companies tell us that when they come there, they want their employees to live very close, and they don't have that type of housing in our community. And as prices are going up in housing, for houses, they don't have that ability. And a lot of young people, engineers and so on, that work in these buildings want to be able to live very close to where they work. That is something that's happening all over the country. Second of all, if you don't develop, you can't lose what you never had. So let's say you abate property taxes for a period of time. If you go another 15 years and there's nothing built there, then you didn't lose anything, but you never gained anything either. You didn't gain the income tax, because really this development is about income tax law. It isn't about property tax. Anybody who knows our budget knows that that property tax is a very small proportion of what the city operates on. Very small. Our income tax is very large compared to that. Some of the efforts that we've done by changing ordinances and what we allow in Arrowhead, as the last 4 years we've given jobs grants and some other things out there. There's been a number of companies are located to the tune of about 800 new jobs, which offset the loss of the jobs at the hospital. So just want to reiterate that the philosophy behind doing this is that you're giving an abatement on something you never got, and if you don't give it, you'll never get that revenue, even the residual you didn't abate. So, and then the fact that you're preparing to mix use a development to stop a aging office park from dying, and that's exactly what was happening in Arrowhead.
I can educate you a little bit, Dave, on the trash service that we have. We're underneath a Lucas County sanitary contract that's been in effect for many, many years. And we are so cheap because we're locked into this contract that it's going to expire here in the next year or so. And quite frankly, Republic is losing every time they pick up garbage in our neighborhoods. They're losing. They're not even paying for the fuel in the trucks. They're literally paying about $17 a month per household is what they're paying, and it's costing them about $45. So they are really losing bad. They would love to shed money really quick because of the actual cost it takes to pick up trash. So moving forward, that is going to be a challenge that we'll have to certainly talk about. And if anybody has input, that's great. I mean, we certainly welcome that. But that will be an increased cost and a challenge that we'll have to look at moving forward. And we'll try to come up with the best case scenario. If everybody's got any ideas, we'll certainly welcome those. Sherry Shunk.
Sherry Shaw, 9 Keith Street, 5,697. I am a supporter of our constitutional rights, the right to speak, express, and to assemble. So upon hearing all the horror stories and incidents from numerous citizens after they spoke out against city officials and council, and to hear how they were on the receiving end of retaliation, harassment, threats of incarceration, and had city employees trespassing onto private property without announcement or without being welcomed on, along with a barrage of lies from officials, council, all to cover it up. It's appalling to me, and it is a violation of our constitutional rights. In the past, I have used the ACLU, and currently I have contacted FIRE, Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. I have given them the YouTube link to our Maumee council meetings, and have asked for their assistance and direction going forward. For your information, this foundation has successfully defended 4 citizens in a federal lawsuit against the mayor of East Point, Michigan, and because that mayor would not allow a citizen to express their point of view, just like you did to Danny Cobb. So you're not listening to the people that voted you in office. They all have the same frustrations on the direction that you're moving Maumee to. They don't agree with your vision or your decisions on what you're moving forward. And like a good employer, when you're not doing your job, you take steps to correct. A verbal warning, retraining, etc. And if that doesn't come to the standards, you have no choice but to terminate their employment. And I believe the good citizens of Maumee have spoken with the announcement of a recall. And it's time to part ways. And my personal opinion is you might best start looking at resignation. I think it would be a good option. So to close, I'm not a landlord or a renter, but I was one of the 5,697 that voted no on issue 2 and will vote in favor of removal of each and every one of you. I implore the citizens of Maumee that feel they have been victimized by officials or have been by council or any employee in any such way to contact FIRE, because they will represent you. You don't have to live in fear. And I will post that information on the Maumee Matters page. Thank you.
Ryan?
Hi, my name's Ryan, 1417 Shepherd Drive. I came tonight and I brought some handouts because today wasn't a really good day for me. I always come and I ask for opportunities to be a part of the community and just what's good for Maumee. And finally last night, after looking at some messages, I convinced Lord, because I'm always wanting to introduce myself and meet people in the community, regardless of what they're, how they, I just want to talk to people. I want to see, I want to be a part, I want to learn, you know what I mean? And so she helped me reach out to a guy on the Maumee Matters page, and I asked him, I thought some things had been maybe misunderstood or whatnot, and I just wanted to talk to him, and listen to him, and I wanted to be heard also. And And by doing that, I waited anxiously last night for a reply, and I didn't get one. And so the first thing I did when I woke up this morning, I wanted to check my phone. And still nothing. So I asked Lauren to send me a message on Messenger to make sure it was working. And she sent me a message, and of course it was. Well, later on in the day, I found out the reason why I hadn't heard back from the guy is because he told everybody, he blocked me from the site and told everybody on the social media page that I was nothing more than a lying spy for Birch. And he went on throughout the day, more and more people commented on it. And it even got to the point by this evening that the girls are getting concerned because I'm getting implications on there about, oh, I'm going to send him a picture of his house so he knows we know where he lives, and other comments like that. I'm not lying about any of this. I went and spent $50-$60 out of my SSI check to make copies at FedEx so everybody could see exactly what I'm talking about. And, all I did was reach out to the guy to see if we could come together and I could talk, and I could hear him talk and listen. And this is what I get back for that. This is, I guess, supposedly a guy that's a voice of this front-running recall, and this is how I'm treated, Like, why would somebody like that ever think that he should deserve a seat up where you're at, or anybody else that condones that? I haven't seen any of these messages on there of anybody actually, like, having my back and be like, hey, that's not right, that's not cool, why are you acting like that? Yet I've heard this guy numerous times on there telling people, oh, be cordial when you speak to people, and speak with facts, and don't act like that. But that's exactly how this guy acted to me, Now I got my family sitting around wondering about why the hell this guy's...
You can just go ahead and conclude your thought.
I don't know. I'm just so dismayed today. I come to meeting after meeting and ask for opportunities to help the community, and then somebody treats me like that. It's just crazy.
Thank you, Ron. Lauren? Gadlowski?
I'm Lauren. I actually came with Ryan, so I prepared something ahead of time. My name is Lauren, and I live at 1417 Shepherd. I'd like to address the recall information. There was an informational educational meeting at Maumee Library last weekend. The meeting was set up solely by residents and word of mouth. This was in no way organized by the mayor or anyone in city council. Any city council member that chose to show up there was there to listen. Any insight they offered was based on citizen questions that they were asked to specifically answer. The meeting was open to anyone who would like to join, even though it has been reported otherwise. The question was asked many times if anyone was there in support of recent decisions, not in support of recent decisions, to share their thoughts in open dialogue. No one spoke up. Based on information I haven't read, it was a citizen named Sue Larson who came and shared false information of the meeting with Maumee Matters Group, specifically Danny Johnson. For more specific things that were said, please address me after the meeting, as there's not time to share them all here. Ryan reached out to Danny Johnson via Facebook Messenger, asking to open dialogue with him about current views and points on both sides. Instead of responding to him, he immediately blocked him and spoke of him as a lying spy. Additionally, found our home, took a picture, sent it to us, letting us know that Mr. Johnson knows exactly where we live. We have printed them out and shared them amongst everyone here to read. Ryan is paralyzed and serves as no threat to anyone. He does not even have the capability to screenshot anything and share with members of council. Danny, a man who has claimed to be willing to talk with anyone, instead just blocks and cowardly posts derogatory statements on Facebook. Is this really the poster child you want to lead your movement? While there's always room for improvement, I believe this recall would be a complete waste of time. The citizens of Maumee voted the current council that sits before us. To think that recalling everyone here would not have catastrophic consequences to our city is kidding themselves. I myself, along with many other residents, support each and every one of you that sit up here. You're being forced to endure endless personal attacks. I applaud your resilience. I can say from personal experience that Mr. Birch and Mr. Barrow have taken time to help Ryan and I while we navigate his injury. Patrick and Gabe personally offered to pick up a shovel and dig our fence. Both, along with many other members of council, paid our variance fee and offered us personal and financial support when we need it. This alone speaks volume to their character. Should the recall come to a special election, know that all of you that sit up here still have my vote. And finally, Chelsea Ziss, who I've not had the formal pleasure of meeting, I feel like deserves a thank you from all the citizens for the time and dedication she's put into the sewer system.
I believe that concludes our citizens' comments. It's always been a spirited time during citizens' comments. We'll move to adoption of the agenda. Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Linebacker.
Yes.
Noonan.
Yes.
Funkenberger.
Yes.
Barrow.
Yes.
Fiskus. Harris.
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
Approval of the meeting minutes on November 4th. Yes, Mr. Fisk.
Mayor, I move to approve regular meeting minutes of November 4th, 2024.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll second that motion. Call the roll, please, on the meeting minutes.
Linebacker.
Yes.
Noonan.
Yes.
Funkenberger.
Yes.
Barrow.
Yes.
Fiskus. Harris.
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
We have no petitions and communications, other than the Finance and Economic Development Committee that met last Thursday, but we got a report from them during Committee of the Whole. We'll move to the consent calendar. I'll need a motion to approve all the consent calendar items in a second, and then we'll discuss that. Ms. Puffenberger.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I'd like to make a motion to approve all consent calendar items.
Mr. Noonan.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I will second the motion.
Thank you. Recommendation from the city administrator. This is relative to the Holiday Lights Parade and the Holiday Hustle 5K race on Sunday, December 1st, and the necessary closure of streets and the times that that's going to take place. I believe the race takes place at 4 to 5, and then the parade's at 6:30. I think that's the time. And that is on Sunday, December 1st. And I believe that is all we have under consent calendar. So we'll call the roll on that, please. Unless there's any further discussion. Call the roll, please.
Linebacker.
Yes.
Noonan.
Yes.
Funkenberger.
Yes.
Barrow.
Yes.
Fiskus.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
Under new business, this is relative to the sewer program that we just talked about during Committee of the Whole. The administrator and his staff have been working to propose solutions to eliminate sanitary sewer overflows in our community. This effort stems from the director's findings and orders in 2021 and subsequent review from Stantec in July of this year, which identified areas of Maumee with significant infiltration issues and determined that sewer laterals are a significant source of the clean water entering our sanitary sewer system, therefore overloading it. The Stantec SSES report provided the information necessary to allow the administration to map out a plan for remedying the sewer discharge issues. The efforts to develop plans has been ongoing since the receipt of the report. Recently, after notification of interest rate reductions from the EPA, Maumee has been able to revise a plan for repairing and or replacing sewer laterals with the city's current rate structure and provide these repairs and replacements to many property owners without any additional cost to that owner. In a span of less than 5 months, this plan has evolved, allowing for necessary rehabilitation without undue burden. City Council and the City Administrator want to thank all participants who provided input into this matter, and special thank you to the city involvement with CMAQ for its input regarding affordability and consideration of our residents. We recognize that more work will still need to be done to eliminate sanitary overflows, and Maumee is committed to working to resolve these overflows and understands that community participation in this plan is important in achieving our collective goal. So what we have before us basically is to endorse and support a plan. It's not necessarily an ordinance. It's just a position of council to endorse what we've talked about tonight. So there is a recommendation from the Finance and Economic Development Committee, and I will refer to Ms. Puffenberger on that since she's the chair of that.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald.
I hereby move to endorse, support, and be committed to the proposed solution to effectively eliminate sanitary sewer overflows while avoiding the need to construct sanitary sewer storage facilities or tanks presented tonight as developed by the city administration and staff. Enact legislation as may be necessary to fund the plan and/or enact legislation to address legal issues and authorize the city administration and mayor to proceed with steps necessary to implement and enact the plan to repair the Maumee sanitary sewer system as presented.
Can I have a second to that, please? Mr. Fiskus?
Thank you, Mayor. I will second that motion.
Anything further on that? Call the roll.
Linebacker,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Pufferberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
We also have a recommendation from the Finance and Economic Development Committee, Ms. Puffenberger. This is the first reading of this ordinance.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to approve ordinance 037-2024, an ordinance amending chapter 927 sewer regulations of the Maumee codified ordinances and ordinances related thereto.
I would second that motion.
Anything further on that? Call the roll, please.
Linebacker,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Pufferberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
And Ms. Puffenberger, C, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor McDonald. I hereby request City Council direct the city administrator to nominate for an additional $20 million from the EPA towards efforts for repair and/or remediation of private laterals.
Thank you, Mayor. I will second that motion. Anything further on that? Call the roll, please.
Linebacker,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Pufferberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
D is a recommendation from the Municipal Plan Commission, which has vetted all these. They've gone through these ordinances that have that need to be updated and revised. So it's an approval of ordinance 38-2024, amending Maumee Codified Ordinance sections 1101.02 and 1125.12 to clarify definitions and other provisions in the zoning code regarding professional service definitions in M1 district. This is just updating basically our zoning code, and like I said, all this was vetted through the Municipal Plan Commission. They went through this extensively and are recommending approval. Need two motions to waive the 3 readings and second to approve the ordinance. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I just want to, the Municipal Planning Commission actually approved this, for you to approve. And what this is expanding uses in different areas, and especially in the manufacturing district, that allows other mixed uses. We have a business trying to locate here, which is why this is on an emergency basis tonight.
We need a couple motions here.
It's actually not emergency, just wait the.
It's waiving 3 readings.
It's waiving 3 readings.
Mr. Noonan, would you,
Yeah, thank you, Mayor McDonald. First, I would like to make a motion to waive the 3 readings.
I would second that motion.
call the roll?
Linebacker,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Pufferberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
And then, thank you again, Mayor McDonald. I will make a motion to approve ordinance 38-2024.
I would second that motion.
Call the roll?
Linebacker,
Yes.
Noonan,
Yes.
Pufferberger,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Fiskus,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kurt.
Yes.
We have no old business. We'll move to comments by council and administration. I would just like to comment on the Finance and Economic Development Committee and our staff and how they've been persistent in showing great tenacity and trying to come up with the best possible solution for our community. Involving our citizens in CMAQ was an important piece of that. We realized that from this past summer. I did as well, and thought it was a very important piece moving forward. We did have a number of meetings and involved over 200 people to input into those community meetings that we had. But this is going to continue to be an evolving process. I do appreciate that we have something solid that we can move forward with. In fact, it was very interesting. Somebody that I had never met before in the meeting last Thursday said that they could see this being a model program for other communities that are kind of trying to find answers and how to solve problems, because this is not just for Maumee. It's not. There's a lot of aging communities and small communities that have this problem, and it's gonna just involve somebody that's very committed and has the knowledge and the expertise to do that, and I'm thankful that we have that in our staff. So I'd just like to comment on everybody that was involved in this. Thank you very much for that. Mr. Leonard.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. Just two quick comments, and they're both about the sewer plant. I 100% support a plan that does not include storage tanks. Eliminating the problem at the source is long term. It's going to be the best way to go for our community. And secondly, we had a first reading on an ordinance that is part of some enabling legislation for that. I encourage people to get a copy of it, read it. If you have questions, please contact any of us. We want your feedback. We want to make sure that first you understand what it is that we're going after, and secondly, maybe help us clarify some of the issues that need to be clarified. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Noonan.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I'm in agreement with Councilmember Lineback as far as, I don't think the solution is to have permanent structures. It's kind of different, but it is somewhat similar. It reminds me of when we were entertaining possible alternatives for our water. One of the things that was proposed as an alternative was, if people remember, Pioneer doing an aquifer system. It was going to be 40 miles, of infrastructure. And to me, it just wasn't a reasonable and feasible thing to do. I equate these containment tanks as such. To me, it solves nothing, and to me, it's a more of an environmental concern building these permanent structures to do something that probably won't solve the issue anyway. So I applaud the administration and CMAC for continuing to do work on this stuff, and I urge everybody to do the little one-on-ones and to sign up, because as Dr. Burt's presented here, I encourage everybody to essentially get in line, right, starting in 2025, to take advantage of those programs. Obviously, if we get all three things to go our way here. So I encourage everybody. I mean, even if it's even double the 700, right? If we can get in line into 2025, we'll get to you, and you can still take advantage of what we're offering. So, I encourage everybody there on that. I wasn't going to talk about the recall, but hearing Ryan and Lauren speak, however this recall thing comes to play, I encourage everybody, even if we're in full disagreements with each other, let's be respectful. Posting a screenshot of someone's house, just because they want to come to the table and talk to you, to me, is downright despicable. That's fear and intimidation if I've ever heard of it. So I just encourage everybody, just be respectful and how this plays out. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Puckenberger?
Thank you, Mayor McDonald. I kind of repeat a lot what's already said, but for me, it's very important that we, fix this problem. Tanks definitely are expensive now to build, but then to keep up and then to treat the water that shouldn't be coming into the system anyways, which is just more money on top of more money on top of more money. So I'm excited for our community to be excited to fix the problem. I hope that everyone, like Councilmember Noonan said, signs up, get in line and get ready to get your problem fixed. Okay. I guess one more thing is I got to go to the community update for TARTA. last week. And there's some pretty amazing things that they are doing. They've got a 1-day fee cap of $3 per day, or a fee cap of $15 per week, or $45 per 31-day period. And that's including their Tarta Flex program, which $3 one way for that. It's kind of like Uber, super convenient. I've used it before. I did a test run with some of the members in Tarta. It's really nice. But I think that's a great option. It's something that we have at Maumee. Everyone should take advantage of it. I would like to do that more so. Also heard about their adding 11 electric buses to its fleet in 2025, which is amazing. They're looking at doing some rapid transit systems. They're doing some really, really great things. And Maumee's included in that TARPA system. With the recall, everyone said a lot of different things. I could repeat all of them, but we get flack all the time for lack of transparency and not including. But every single group that has come about, well, maybe not every single one, but at least 2 key groups that come around on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook. No, thank you. They talk about wanting, everyone's allowed to be included and involved, and they can say whatever they want, and they're allowed to share their input and share their ideas. But as soon as anyone does contrary to what they believe and they think, they get kicked off. We get in trouble for lack of transparency, but yet everyone's being hand selected in these groups. I just don't understand it. I'm done.
Thank you. Mr. Barrow. Thank you, Mayor. Congratulations to our new firefighters. I really think that's great. That plan's unfolding. And when I got on for my first term in 2020, I think it was month 2 when COVID hit. The sewer thing hit, the EPA hit. Dr. Birch made us aware of what we were doing since 1996 wasn't allowed anymore. We didn't know that. And it's taken 5 years to get here. And a lot of things have happened. We had to roll out our first plan, which was an abomination. We admit it. The BP said, you gotta do this, you gotta do it now. We did it. We got back with the EPA and said, you blew the top off of our city. We don't know what to do. They said, oh, we don't care how you do it, just do it. So that's when we made a quick change and pulled all that off the table. But it's not hard, and I just give a lot of credit to all the people who worked for the last 3.5, 4 years up to this point, and the 5th year now with CMAC. And really getting a message out there that we got off on a bad foot, but we were under that timeline, and now we've got it figured out, and I really like the plan that's put forward. Thank you.
Mr. Fiskus. Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to say anything today. But speaking of the sewer issue, I want to thank all the city staff and all their work. This has been a fluid situation, pun intended. When you learn one thing, very, very possible that next week you get new data and it shows something completely different. And we've had to pivot multiple times, and I think, with the work that they've done, talking to the EPA, talking to other communities, talking with the community groups like CMAC, I think we're really setting a great step forward. And like the mayor said, we can be a shining example of how communities around the country can actually fix these problems and not just throw a Band-Aid on them and temporarily, just make it go away until everyone stops paying attention. It's, we're protecting one of our most critical resources, and I really hope that we set an example that other communities can follow. It's going to take a lot of hard decisions and hard conversations to have, but we got to have them, and we don't have a choice. So once again, I applaud everybody for all their work.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Thank you, Mayor. I think we have learned now that tanks are the last resort that we want to go to. Hearing that the EPA said that putting a tank in immediately would be a show of good faith. I actually asked a question in the Finance Committee to Dr. Birch, and I said, well, with this new plan, what if we ended up getting 95% of our community to actually buy into this and say, we want to come out in 2025 and start fixing our problem? The answer to that was, well, that would be a pretty darn good to show a faith to the EPA that our citizens are willing to actually stand up and do what is right and what they need to be done. I do want to commend CMAC and the administration for working together and coming up with a solution that I believe that this community seems to be a lot happier about. I'm going to beat a dead horse too. Over on the November 11th, we had Veterans Day. We ended up going out with the Chamber of Commerce and 10 volunteers went around. I'm happy to say that we honored 250 of our veterans right here in the city of Maumee. As I said, 10 volunteers, which included the firefighters who actually came to my house while I was out making deliveries of my sons and some other people that reached out. And lastly, I do want to also congratulate all the new firefighters that we have, a part-time and full-time, that's here. Thank you.
Mr. Kirk?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. I just want to have a little TED talk here. A real TED talk. My kids have told my grandchildren, Pappy wants to have a TED talk. Look out. Well, look out. Last week, you've all seen the mayor published an article about the recall effort. And as usual, Mike and his staff did a fine job of presenting the views of both sides on this issue. If you didn't read my comments, permit me to briefly summarize them. I said the recall group's stated goal is to, quote, install new council members who will terminate the employment of the city administrators. I described this goal as nothing more than a naked attempt at legalized extortion. Because what they're really saying is, fire Patrick Birch, or we will fire you. So I guess now I have a decision I have to make. You know, I don't have the authority to unilaterally fire Patrick Birch. If I did, I could do that and satisfy the group and not be subject to recall. I suppose I could gain the favor of the group by standing up here and advocate for his termination somehow. Maybe I could introduce legislation, maybe a resolution that starts out with a bunch of whereases and concludes with fire Birch. Maybe if I did that, the group would discontinue their efforts to recall me, just concentrate on the others. But that's the choice I have to make. But what kind of a man would I be if I were to choose to give in to extortion? And that's what I call it, extortion. I'm not saying anybody in particular is an extortionist, but this is extortion. If I gave into that, I would be a man who sells out his principles and his dignity and his integrity for what, $500 or $600 a month take home pay? Forget it. I will not be that man. I have never given in to threats of any kind, and if anyone thinks I'm about to start now, just watch me. It's not going to happen. Now, if you want to go out and find some serious, compelling, true reasons that constitute just cause for firing somebody, for firing Patrick Birch, you go out, go ahead and do so. You get them, bring them back to me, and we'll talk. But until then, it's not going to happen. Not for me. Do the people of the city of Maumee seriously want a bunch of council members and a mayor who will cower and timidly give in to their demands? Do they want us to shrink into shells like little scared turtles whenever the going gets tough? I don't think so. Nobody told me that last year when I was campaigning for this job. And I can't speak for anybody else up here. But I'm fairly certain nobody told them that either. The people behind this recall effort have accused 6 council members and the mayor of allowing Patrick Birch to control us. But isn't that exactly what this group is doing? You're trying to control us by saying you want to elect a new city council who will fire Patrick Birch. On one hand, you're upset because you think Birch is controlling us, yet on the other hand, it is you who is trying to control us. Now, hopefully you all know where I stand, and more important than that, what I stand for. I will close by saying this to the Mr. Mayor, you were very courageous a moment ago by publicly stating your support of Patrick Birch. You're subject to recall. That may cost some votes. That may cause you to become recalled. But that was a very courageous thing to do, and I stand by your side, sir, in support of Patrick Birch, unless he does something that deserves to be fired. With that, Mr. Mayor, if there's nothing else, I move we go into executive session, or if there is something else, I will withdraw my motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment, Mr. Pert?
It's hard to follow that. Thank you, Councilman. I just wanted to say one thing, and the same gentleman that, in my opinion, accosted Ryan did the same thing when I was down Saturday morning investigating the fuel spill at White Park. Walked up to me and used every four-letter word, which I'm sure his pastor and church would not approve, at me. And at some point, I'm a human being. My spouse, my children, my grandchildren, kind of live in fear. If you haven't been on those Facebook pages, I know people who are or send me stuff. And anybody who's participated should be ashamed of themselves. Never once in my life tried to reach out to hurt another human being. But to sit there and to be part of it as a human being and take is one thing to attack me, but to put someone in their place and say, I know where you live, and have the guts enough to do that and put it on Facebook to somebody who doesn't have the abilities that I do, like Ryan does, after having been in an accident, it's really poor. And anybody in this room who participates in that, shame on you. I mean, it's really kind of horrific to watch people act in that manner when they get behind a computer and think that that somehow enables them to be the people they aren't supposed to be. You know, I do help people when I can. We all done things in our past that we're not proud of. Not anybody in this room could ever suggest otherwise. You will never find me breaking the law. I will not do it for anybody. And anybody who knows me, I won't even take a cup of coffee from somebody who wants to buy me a cup of coffee. I don't put myself in that position. I just want to make sure that people reflect when they attack council members or attack each other on Facebook. It's just something about our humanity that we don't see and don't recognize in ourselves. That we act in a pious manner and we post things about Jesus and Allah and all the things we do, yet we turn around and do just the opposite to the least of these. We're called to do these things onto the least of these, and you've done it to me. Anybody who's a Christian knows that in here. But I'm not sure that that gentleman who said that, and you all know who he is, I don't have to say his name, would ever go to that Savior that he supposedly believes in and say that I've done it to the least of these and done something evil like that to somebody who is absolutely defenseless in many ways. It's just not right. I just call on people and the better angels to start treating people with more respect. And it's not just respect, just kindness. You can disagree without being disagreeable and without attacking others. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you with that. I appreciate it. And thank you for the audience for listening to me.
Thank you. With that, we'll accept Mr. Kurt's motion for executive session. Mr. Weinbach, please second that. Will you call the roll?
Weinbach?
Yes.
Noonan?
Yes.
Pufferberger?
Yes.
Barrow?
Yes.
Biscuits? Harris?
Yes.
Burt?
Yes.
And this is for pending litigation. Yes. And there'll be no more council business after this. We're going to executive session. Thank you for your attention.